The sound wasn't a text. I know that because texts have a weight to them, a purpose. Someone wants something. Someone needs something. This was lighter, almost polite, a suggestion, an algorithm trying to be helpful. Ping. It came from my iPad, sitting on the kitchen island, screen glowing faintly in the late afternoon light. I was scrolling through college dorm checklists, half distracted, half nostalgic. Twin Excel sheets, storage cubes. A desk lamp that didn't look like it belonged in a prison cell. Normal things, safe things. The kind of things you focus on when you're standing on the edge of a life transition and pretending not to notice the drop. Talk about irony. The notification banner slid down smoothly, cheerfully. Suggested for you, Wedding Registry, Pottery Barn. My favorite store. For half a second, my brain refused to process it. It tried to file it under mistake. Wrong, Sylvia. Wrong algorithm. Maybe Mia had been browsing something similar. Teenagers are always online. Always clicking things that don't make sense. Then I saw the names. Edward Cunningham and Kayla Morris. The wedding date was listed as yesterday. My heart didn't stop. People say that, but it's not accurate. It didn't stop at all. It dropped straight down. Like an elevator when the cable snaps. That sickening moment where gravity takes over and your body understands something before your mind does. Edward Cunningham, my husband of 22 years. Kayla Morris, my daughter's 19-year-old best friend. The girl who had been sleeping in our guest room for the last 14 months. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the iPad. I didn't cry. Instead, a cold, metallic calm washed through me, fast and complete. It felt like freezing water filling my lungs, shocking, numbing, oddly clarifying. The kind of calm that comes right before a hurricane rips the roof off a house, the kind that strips things down to essentials. My hands didn't shake. They felt steadier than they had in years. I zoomed in on the registry photo. There they were, smiling like idiots in front of the Battery in Charleston. Edward was wearing the navy linen suit I bought him for his birthday last year, the one he'd claimed made him look too young. Apparently, it wasn't too young for marrying a teenager. Kayla was wearing a white sundress. I recognized it immediately. I had bought that dress for my daughter, Mia. I sat there staring at the screen, cataloging details the way I always do, the way designers do, lighting. Composition, body language, Edward's hand resting too possessively on Kayla's waist. Kayla leaning into him, her head tilted just so. Not shy, not conflicted, comfortable. He thought he was clever. A secret ceremony during a business trip. A quiet destination wedding wrapped in plausible deniability. He thought I was back home, clueless, picking out duvet covers and debating whether Mia needed an extra throw pillow for her dorm bed. He thought I was the woman who would sit and wait for him to come home and lie about how exhausting the conference had been. How terrible the food was, how much he missed me, he had no idea. He didn't know that the guest room Kayla had been living in had a very specific legal status, one my mother had insisted on. He didn't know that the new prenup he forced me to sign last year contained a morality clause he'd insisted on because he was projecting his own guilt onto me. And he certainly didn't know that while he was saying I do to a teenager in a humidity-soaked gazebo, I was already changing the locks, the bank passwords, and the beneficiary on his life insurance policy. 3 hours later, I would welcome them home, and the welcome party I had planned was going to be unforgettable. I had humiliation prepared as the appetizer, total financial ruin for the main course, and for dessert. Let's just say vengeance is best served with eviction papers. My name is Sylvia Cunningham. I'm 44 years old, and for the last 2 decades, I've curated lives. I'm an interior designer in Savannah, Georgia, specifically Ardsley Park, where the oak trees drip with Spanish moss and the secrets are buried deep beneath manicured azaleas. My job is to make things look perfect, even when the foundation is rotting. I know how to use lighting to hide cracks. I know how to position furniture to distract from structural flaws. I know how to sell the illusion of permanence. My husband, Edward, is 47, a real estate developer, or, as he liked to call himself, a visionary. He built cheap condos, slapped on a coat of gray paint, called them luxury lofts, and sold them for 3 times what they were worth. He had charm, the slippery used car salesman kind that works on people who don't know any better. We lived in a beautiful 1920s craftsman, the one I spent 5 years restoring with my own hands, every tile, every fixture, every shade of paint. It was supposed to be our forever home, the house where we raised our daughter, Mia, now 19 and a sophomore at UGA. The house where we foolishly invited Kayla to stay. From the outside, we were Savannah's golden couple. Edward, the successful developer. Me, the creative genius behind his model homes. Inside the house, though, things had grown quiet. Functional, cold, Edward had become distant over the last 3 years. More business dinners, more site visits that stretched until midnight. He started buying flashier suits, whitening his teeth until they looked like piano keys, and then came the red Porsche, loud, impractical, and desperate. I told myself it was a phase. Men do this, right? They hit 45, panic about mortality, buy a sports car. I was patient. I was understanding. I should have burned that Porsche the day he drove it into the driveway. My mother, Elinor, passed away 4 years ago. She was a steel magnolia of a woman, soft on the outside, always smelling faintly of Chanel No. 5 and fresh biscuits, but titanium underneath. She raised me and my sister alone after my father left us for his secretary. Cliché, I know, but clichés exist because they're common. She left me 2 things, a small inheritance, $142,000. And a letter. I keep that letter in my nightstand drawer inside a velvet pouch. I've read it so many times the paper is soft at the edges. Sylvia, never let a man hold the deed to your happiness or your house. Love fiercely, but sign carefully. A woman's name on a title deed is the only true security she has in this world. Men leave, houses stay. We used the money to build the guest suite addition onto our house. It was my passion project. I wanted a space that felt like a sanctuary, reclaimed heart pine floor, de-ceiling windows overlooking the camellias, a kitchenette with Italian marble I sourced myself. Edward tried to convince me to put the addition under the main property title. It simplifies refinancing, he said, flashing that grin. Why pay extra fees for separate permits? It's all one family, right? What's mine is yours. I almost caved. I wanted to be the trusting wife. I wanted to believe that what's mine is yours wasn't just another manipulation tactic. But my mother's voice nagged from the grave, sign carefully, Sylvia. So quietly, without explaining the full legal implications, I insisted on a separate clause in the contractor agreement and city permits. I told Edward it was for liability reasons with my design clients. The addition was classified as an auxiliary dwelling unit, registered specifically to Elinor Designs LLC, my company. I even set up a 99-year ground lease from the main property owned jointly to the LLC. Edward signed everything without reading. He was watching football. Just sign here, honey, so I can write off the marble, I said. He scribbled his name and went back to the game. At the time, it felt like a boring technicality. I had no idea it would eventually become the guillotine blade for his entire scheme. Looking back, the signs were everywhere. They flashed like neon lights on River Street, but I was too busy choosing curtains to notice. Red flag number 1, the mentorship. Edward suddenly took a keen interest in me as friends, specifically Kayla. She's sharp, Sil, he'd say. She's hungry. She just needs a mentor. When Kayla's parents kicked her out, Edward was the one who suggested the guest suite. Look at her, he whispered, watching Kayla cry on our sofa. She's a child. She has nobody. We have this massive house. Are we really going to let her sleep in her car? What would your mother say? He knew exactly which buttons to push. He weaponized my empathy against me. 2 weeks, I said. Strict boundaries, of course. Edward smiled. You're a saint or a fool. The 2 weeks stretched into 14 months. Red flag number 2, the gym. Edward started going at 5 a.m. Edward had never gone to the gym. Suddenly, he was obsessed with core strength, longevity, protein shakes. He said he wanted to look good for me. Kayla coincidentally worked the front desk at that same gym. One morning, he came home glowing, smelling of sweat and vanilla. "You smell like cookies," I said, tossing his shirt into the hamper. He laughed too quickly. "Protein shake, vanilla bean explosion. It smells like perfume. Don't be ridiculous," he snapped, irritation flashing for half a second. "It's whey protein, don't start nagging." I wasn't nagging. Later, Kayla chirped, "Oh hey, I just scanned Edward in this morning." He turned away to hide his face. "She's a trooper," he said, "a real grinder. Red flag number 3, the wardrobe, skinny jeans on a 47-year-old man." Kayla told him he looked fire. He beamed like he'd won a Nobel Prize. "You're stuck in the classic era, Sil," he said. "The woman with 3 Best of Savannah Design Awards. I bit my tongue until I tasted blood." Red flag number 4, the late nights. "Big project, zoning board nightmares. Don't wait up." Kayla was always studying late, those same nights. I never connected the dots. She called me Mommy Sil. She ate my lasagna. She borrowed my sweaters. The thought of my husband looking at her that way was grotesque, incestuous in spirit, if not blood. Then one night, around 11, I called Kayla to see if she needed a ride. No answer. I called Edward. No answer. 10 minutes later, they walked in together. "Look who I found." Edward boomed. "Thanks, Dad. I mean Edward." Kayla giggled. I smiled. "Lucky, right. Red flag number 5, the phone. Edward got a new one, work security," he said. It never left his body. One night, while he was in the shower, a message lit up. "Can't wait for tonight, Daddy." He laughed it off. I believed him. God help me, I believed him. It was Tuesday, November 14th, and that was the day everything ended. Once the shock wore off, something else took its place. Focus. Not the frantic, scattered kind, but the sharp, surgical clarity that arrives when grief mutates into resolve. I didn't pace. I didn't sob into a pillow. I didn't call a friend to scream into the phone. I made coffee. Black, strong, no sugar. I sat at the kitchen island, the same place where the Pottery Barn registry had detonated my marriage, and I made a list. Edward had underestimated me in one crucial way. He thought pain would make me reckless. It didn't. It made me precise. The first call, Rox, and Vance answered on the first ring. "Sylvia," she said, voice smooth as glass. "I was wondering when you'd call." Roxanne was 5'2", wore vintage Chanel-like armor, and specialized in high-asset marital dissolution. She terrified cheating men for a living. "You knew." I said. "I hear things. Savannah is small." A pause. "Meet me at Gallery Espresso in 20 minutes. Bring whatever you've found." The cafe was loud, all clinking cups and murmured gossip, but Roxanne had secured a corner table in the back. She wore oversized sunglasses and already had a file open when I arrived. I dropped Project Phoenix onto the table. Then the iPad, then the receipt from the wedding dress. She flipped through the forged divorce papers without surprise. Pulled a jeweler's loop from her purse, because of course she did, and examined the signature. "Amateur," she muttered. He traced it. She showed me where the ink pooled, where the hesitation betrayed him. "This is felony forgery," she said calmly. "We can have him arrested before he cuts the cake." "No," I said. She looked up, intrigued. "Arrest is too easy. He'd make bail. He'd spin a story. I want him erased." Roxanne smiled. A slow, dangerous smile. "I like where your head's at." She slid a folder across the table. Photos. Bank transfers, surveillance stills. Edward and Kayla at the gym, at Tiffany's, looking at houses. He transferred $250,000 to an LLC last week, Roxanne said. "KM Consulting." Kayla Morris, "That was our money." I whispered, "Mia's future." She corrected gently. Then came the sentence that locked everything into place. "If the divorce is fraudulent, that transfer is theft." The second call, Charlotte Hale's office sat in the tallest building overlooking the river. You passed 3 security checkpoints just to reach her elevator. She wore a red power suit that probably cost more than my car and listened without interrupting. When she finished reading, she leaned back. "Oh, this is delicious." The forged divorce meant the decree was void ab initio. It never happened. Which meant I was still married, which meant Edward's new marriage was bigamy. Georgia did not take kindly to bigamy. Then I showed her the ADU paperwork. She stared. then laughed. You own the ground his new wife is sleeping on. The prenup sealed it. The morality clause he insisted on adultery resulting in public scandal forfeited assets. He wrote his own execution order, Charlotte said. The house prep I didn't flee, I fortified. Kayla's belongings went into the garage, carefully boxed, labeled impersonal. Her toothbrush, her clothes, the detritus of a stolen youth. I moved my design studio into the guest suite. Then I changed the locks, not the whole house, just enough. And then I wallpapered the master bedroom. Not with paper, with proof, every lie enlarged, every document duplicated, every betrayal made visible. I used designer adhesive spray and covered the walls, mirrors, headboard, even the closet doors. At the center, above the bed, prenup, morality clause violation. I slept peacefully that night. Telling MIA that was the hardest part. She laughed at first, then she vomited. Then she looked at me with eyes that were no longer a child's. Burn him down, she said. I will, I promised. Sunday, 4:00 p.m. The Porsche pulled in like it owned the driveway. Edward looked smug. Kayla wore white. My diamond bracelet sparkled on her wrist. They walked inside laughing. And found me waiting. Edward jumped, dropped the bags. Sylvia, what are you doing here? Welcome home, I said. When he said we were divorced, I smiled. When Kayla realized she'd been lied to, she turned on him. When the police arrived, Edward unraveled. Which wife? I asked lightly when he claimed Kayla. The officers stiffened. Bigamy, the word hit the room like a gunshot. Then I sent them upstairs. The bedroom, Edward stopped breathing. Kayla screamed. The walls told the story he couldn't talk his way out of. Assets frozen, marriage void. Protective order served. Edward's knees buckled. I prefer thorough. I told him. The fall, the arrest came later. Local news loved it. Developer forged divorce papers. Married teenager. Stole marital assets. Investors fled. Banks called loans. Partners vanished. Within 6 months, Edward Cunningham was bankrupt. Kayla disappeared the moment the money did. Transferred schools. Lost friends. Lost status. Mia thrived. 3 years later, the Craftsman is still mine. The guest suite is my studio. My business specializes in reclaiming space after betrayal. Freedom looks good on me. Edward lives above a bowling alley. Last time I saw him, he asked if it was worth it. I told him the truth. I didn't destroy you. I just let everyone see who you were. Closing, if you feel something is wrong, listen. If your mother left you advice, read it. And always, always hold the deed.